Hello guys, I'm back from another video and today we're talking about what if Deku had quirk creation redo. So, in the last video we talked about we basically left off during the, whole cliffhanger where Izuku is basically fighting against the League of Villains with the help of Aizawa and 13 and his summoned, video game characters. He decided to summon two different video game characters, which were the Servant, otherwise known as Burgess, the Saber class Servant, otherwise known as the Fade Knight, Gawain. And the other was Nergigante from, the Monster Hunter series. So, they would start fighting as Izuku was gaining the upper hand. As for Burgess and also, the Nergigante would basically start killing some of the, villains, while Burgess is basically taking them down and also killing them in the process. Basically saving some of the students from, being killed. Like, for example, like Jiro, Momo, and also, what's his face? And Kaminari. So, yeah. So, while they're basically just, fighting them, Izuku would basically get a bit angry as he would decide to go for using his, Beowulf quirk, which he would start fighting some other villains as Shigaraki would be mad and also pissed, so Shigaraki would bring out the Nomu. The Nomu would be summoned as the Nomu would basically start charging in at Burgess and also the Narigante. During the fight, the Gigante would basically bring out his sharp and also, invulnerable spikes, as the Nobu would basically charge in and basically, get his brain stabbed by one of the spikes, killing it in an instant. And when Shigaraki saw this, well, Shigaraki was pissed and started charging towards, a certain, Grapehead, let's just say that. As the Grapehead in question, aka Mineta, was killed. And when, a certain girl, aka, Frog Girl, aka, Suasui, Suyu was about to get killed as Izuku would basically give her the permission to use her Noble Phantasm, as Burgess would activate her Noble Phantasm called Black Dog Galatine, which she would basically rip off a piece of her, I guess you could say, horn? I don't really know what to call it, but she would basically rip off a piece of that, headpiece, as it would start to bleed, as she would start growing to immense size, becoming the size of, Mount Lady when she's using her full power with her quirk, basically, as she would basically bring down her large sword, killing Shigaraki in the process. So, after that, they would be told to go back into the portal as they would disappear. So, after that little incident, everybody was questioned, including Izuku. Izuku would lie, obviously, thanks to, a lying quirk which he used on a certain, how do we say this? A detective or policeman that had a truth and lying detecting quirk. So, after basically using that and also using that, canceling quirk to basically cancel out his quirk, he would basically lie and basically just was told that he's free to go. After that little incident, they were told, or more specifically, we moved to a different perspective, in this case, the, UA staff, they were told about the whole incident by Aizawa, including the appearance of these two different people, or should I say one person and gigantic-ass freak monster, aka the dragon, aka the Nergigante, as they would basically discuss who the hell they are. So, after discussing a little bit, they would basically start to leave as Aizawa and Principal Nezu would be left. As Principal Nezu would basically tell him to, contact his students and also their parents that they're going to be planning on making dorms. So, after telling him that, he would basically, basically start to, go home as well. As Principal Nezu would start playing on his, I guess you can say like Switch, where he's basically just playing Monster Hunter. So, after that, Izuku would get would be given a text from Aizawa that they're planning on getting dorms. So, Izuku would decide to go to those dorms later, but unfortunately he's quite tired. And so, he would basically fall asleep. So, yeah. So, that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, The next day, so Izuku in the next day, he would basically wake up as he would start to go to UA to basically be announced that they're going to be having dorms. Everybody would be excited as they were given papers. They would have been told to basically give them to their parents so they can, allow themselves to go into the dorms. After going to Izuku, Izuku would say this, Aizawa, I'm a freaking orphan. As he would say this. Wait, really? As he would say this. Yeah, why did you decide to give me this? As he would say this. Well, you have a similar name to, to this girl. As he would basically give this, file which contains the girl which he saw last time, which was named Izumi Midoriya. As he would say this. I've never seen her before. I mean, she definitely looks similar to me, with my green hair and one green eye. As he would say this. Are you perhaps related by any chance? As he would say this. Heavens no, or at least I think so. I've been living in England for my whole life. As he would say this. England, you say? As he would say this. Oh yeah, I actually lived in England for, my whole life. I was, put into, an orphanage there. And then I was bullied. Just because of my quirk. As he would say this. Really? As he would say this. Yeah, and then I decided to move. As he would say this. Very well then. Then, what do you... As he would say this. Well, I want to join your dorms then. As he would say this. Wonderful. Anyway, I should be leaving now. I need to get some sleep. As he would say this. Typical Aizawa. As he would say this. What is that supposed to mean? As he would say this. Oh, nothing. As he would decide to get some sleep, going back into his sleeping bag. As Izuku would start to leave class, as, while he's about to leave, he would be approached by, Momo once again. As Momo would say this. Hey, Izuku? As Izuku would say this. Yes, Momo? As she would say this. Well, my father, he wants to talk to you again. As he would say this. Really? I guess so. As they would start to leave in the, they would start to leave after class to, to the, mansion. A.k.a., wait for a second. A.k.a. Momo's, home. As when they arrived, Momo would be introduced to her, father. As, well, her father, a.k.a. Mr., Yajirozu would say this. Ah, Izuku, my lovely daughter Momo, you finally arrived. As he would say this. So, what is it? As he would say this. Well, I want to talk about your whole marriage. As he would say this. The marriage thing again? Why? As, Momo's still pretty much embarrassed about that. As he would say this. Well, we've been talking about it for a while now, so we're planning on making it after, after your first year in UA. How's that sound? We'll be starting the wedding soon. As he would say this. Really? Ah, god damn. And I never really thought of getting married. Maybe like a few years later, or at least something of the sort. As he would say this. Well, I think it's time for you to grow up a little bit. As he would say this. But still... As Momo would basically look at him, as Momo would say this. Don't you like me? As he would say this. I do like you, but it's still pretty much, new to me. As she would say this. Being, wait for a sec. Momo would say this. Oh, I see. As, Momo's father, aka Mr. Yajirozu, would say this. Oh, I do know that type of feeling. Back when I was a kid, I was actually married to your mother. Until I was, about 18 years old, until I was told about this pretty early in my life. I was in college, in fact, when I heard about it. When I was about to get married to, your mother. Momo. As she would say this. Oh, yeah, that story. As Izuku would say this. So you're in a, a forced marriage or something of that sort? As he would say this. Yes, it was forced, but we sort of got used to it. In fact, we pretty much have a healthy marriage. As, he would say this, I see. As Momo would say this, hey father, where's mother? As she would basically, come right in, or come outside. Which was, wait for a second. This person was Momo's mother. As Momo's mother would say this, yeah, yeah, it was a bit much, but we sort of became, a pretty good family ever since. And then we had you. As Izuku would say this, I see. As, Momo would say this, anyway, we're going to be having dorms in our school, so would you, as Momo would say this, or more specifically her parents, why, we'll be, fine with it, just as long as Izuku stays in, the same room as you. As when Izuku and Momo heard that, they would say, what? They would basically say that in unison, as Izuku would say this, but please don't do that, I mean, that sounds a bit stupid, and besides, a boy and a girl in the same room, that would be, as Momo would say this, yeah, exactly, Dad, why? As, Momo's father would say this, well, let's just say it's for you to finally bond a little bit more. I mean, why not? As Izuku would say this, but still, come on. As I meant specifically, wait for a second, specifically Momo's mother would say this. Well, we did have that type of situation back when we were in college, so, as Izuku would say this. Ah, Jesus bloody Christ. He would basically pinch the bridge of his nose as he would say this. Anyway, future son-in-law, as Izuku would say this. Just call me Izuku for God's sake. As he would say this. Anyway, I want you and my daughter to basically stay in the, in the same dorm room. Now, anyway, I'll be telling Principal Nezo about it. As he would say this. And he'll just say yes, as he would say this. Well, he'll say yes to anything. Especially, if the, thing in question is, as he would grab like a, something from his pocket, as it would be a, a limited edition version of like Monster Hunter, as he would say this. So you're basically bribing him, as he would say this. It's not bribery, but still, as Izuku would just say this. Rich people. He would basically say that to himself, as, Momo's father would say this. Hey, but you, as Izuku would say this, yeah? As he would say this. Remember when you were still a villain? Did you, became pretty rich? Or that sort? As Izuku would say this. Yeah, why? As he would say this. Oh well, never mind. You should leave now. As Izuku would say this. Yeah, I should leave. As he would basically start to, teleport away, as Momo would say this. Hey, father. As he would look towards, Momo, as he would say this. What is it, Momo? As he would say this. I meant she. But still, we're just a boy and a girl, and, as he would say this. Oh, don't worry. Besides, me and your mother were basically like that at first. Anyway, you should probably get some sleep. So, after that, it's finally the next day. So, the next day comes as everybody is basically excited, finally going into their, new dorms. Apparently, Baku was not allowed because of a certain incident that they had. Apparently, wait for a second, apparently, her mother, his mother, aka, Mitsuki, decided not to let him join the, dorms because of the certain issue that he has, aka, his prideful nature. So, yeah, unfortunately, he's not going to be, in the, dorms at all. And it's not even unfortunate, it's more like fortunate, the opposite. So, yeah. So, as everybody's basically coming outside, basically looking at their, new dormitory, everybody's basically excited, including Izuku. Izuku is basically carrying all of his stuff with his shadow clones, as everybody just sees multiple of Izuku, as one of them would say this. Which one is the real Izuku? As Izuku would just basically look at himself, Actually, all of them would just look at themselves as Izuku would say this. I'm the real one, over here, as this person was Kirishima. As Kirishima would say this. Hey, Izuku! As Izuku would say this. Oh, hey, Kirishima! As he would say this. So, are you unpacking all of your things? As he would say this. Yeah, so this is our new dormitory? As he would say this. Yep, I think so. And it looks super manly. As Izuku would say this. Anyway, we should be going inside right now. It seems that it's about to rain. As you would look up into the sky, as you would see the clouds basically going a little bit dark. As everybody would start going inside of the, dormitory as they start picking out their rooms. But one room in particular seems to be bigger than the rest. As Principal Nezu would basically arrive into the dormitory as everybody would notice him as Principal Nezu would say this. Anyway, hello there, students. As everybody's basically just got into formation as they basically bow saying, hello there, Mr. Nezu. As Mr. Nezu, aka Principal Nezu, would say this. Oh, don't worry, we don't need to be formal here, sorry about that. As he would say, so, can Izuku Midoriya and also Momo Yaoyorozu come up to me for a second? As Momo Yaoyorozu and Izuku would basically start to follow him towards the larger, dorm room, as they would see that this is going to be their new dorm room with a large bed. And this bed seems to be a bed fit for a love hotel. As Izuku would start looking at Momo, as Momo would say this. Seriously, father? As Izuku would say this. Ugh, damn rich people. He would basically pinch the bridge of his nose. As, wait for a second. As Principal Nezu would start laughing to himself as he would say this. Anyway, this is going to be both your, dorm rooms. And it's going to be, well, fit for both of you. And, by the way, don't do anything drastic while you're in here. I don't want to have any necessary or unnecessary incidents having in this room. Especially both of you. Because, two, two teenagers, basically, one boy and one girl, basically alone together. As Izuku would just say this, alright, stop. As, Principal Nezu would start to laugh a little bit as he would start to leave. As everybody, more specifically his classmates, are basically seeing that, after hearing that little, talk with, Izuku and also Momo with, Principal Nezu, they would basically hear that, Momo and also, Izuku are gonna be staying in the same room. So yeah, after hearing that, every single boy is basically saying, what? As all of the girls would basically start, talking to, wait for a second, started to rush over towards, Momo, as the girls would start asking why they're being forced to, stay in the same, dorm room. As the boys would basically bring him towards, or at least some of the boys, specifically like Kaminari and also, Sero. So, Sero and Kaminari would basically bring him into a corner as they would say, why Principal Nezu decided to make you sleep in the same room as the, her. They would basically start pointing at, Momo, as Izuku would say this. Well, let's just say it's a bit of a secret, and I prefer not to talk about it. As all of the guys, specifically, Sero and also, Kaminari, specifically being, a bit of a fanboy, the fanboyish towards, Momo. Let's just say they're kind of a bit pissed, but they wonder, why are they being forced to, stay in the same dorm room? As Izuku would say this, let's just say it's something, a bit personal. And not only that, I'm being forced into it. As one of them would say this, forced into it? As Izuku would say this, yeah, take a guess why. As he would start, getting a bit angry. As every single guy would notice that he seems to be quite pissed. As Izuku would say this, anyway, so, I should be going back into my dorm room / Momo's dorm room so I can unpack all my stuff. as the, shadow clones of Izuku would start bringing some of the boxes of his stuff towards, the room. So, after putting his stuff in the, dorm room, and also Momo's, I guess you could say other shadow clones, which, Izuku made for her, would start bringing her, stuff to the dorm room as well. So, as everybody is basically like going into their rooms to basically go and basically decorate it all by themselves, Izuku and also Momo would basically start decorating their room as well. So, Izuku would basically make a simple room with, almost European style like furniture, as Momo would basically have a little bit of like a desk for her to study, and also Izuku's gonna have a desk for him to study as well. But also has, a lot of books. And I mean a lot. These books contain a lot about quirks and also many different quirk variants and different quirks. And it's basically like a library of quirk ideas that he basically made over the years back when he was still a villain. So, after he basically did that, he would basically look towards, Momo, as Momo would say this. This place is quite roomy. As Izuku would say this. Agreed. And Momo, because we're gonna be, you know, Ashi would say this. Yeah, because we're, he would basically start, rubbing the back of his head, as he would say, because we're basically staying in the same, dorm room now, we're gonna be having a bit of boundaries, okay? Ashi would say this. Sure. As Izuku would say this. So, I'll be sleeping on this side, you'll be sleeping on that side. And, whoever is going to have the bathroom, okay? Um, like, for say, it's me, you just have to wait. And if we're gonna be changing, we're gonna be changing in the, bathroom. So we can't, um, you know, Ash would say this. I see. As Izuku would say this. Anyway, should we go outside to the, living quarters now? Ash would say this. Sure. So, as both of them would basically go outside, as everybody's basically just wearing casual clothes. As Izuku is just basically just like wearing black jeans with, a simple like black tank top. As Izuku is basically just like walking around, and as he would basically decide to basically like sit in the couch, basically scrolling to the channels of the TV, as the girls would basically start looking at him, seeing that he has toned muscles, as some of the girls would basically start blushing. As Momo would notice this, as she would start to become a little bit jealous. Some of the guys would also notice this, as the girls would basically start, noticing even more about his, body, as the boys would start to, like, some of the boys, like, for example, like, Kaminari and also Sero being a bit jealous, they would basically start, muttering to themselves, saying, why does he get all the chicks? They would basically say to themselves, as one of them would basically say this, specifically, what's his face? As this one person, specifically Ida, would say this, so, are we not going to talk about the death of our classmate, Medara? As everybody would basically tense up, as Izuku would basically say this, oh yeah, the pervert. As everybody would just look towards him, as one of them would say this, I mean, he was a pervert, but it doesn't mean that you had to insult him. As Izuku would say this. Yeah, but still, I still kind of feel angry at him. As he would say this, specifically, as Ida would say this. Yeah, we know that he was a pervert, but still, you don't really need to be angry at him. As he would say this. Whatever. As he would basically just like sit up, as he would say this. But I still forgive him. I mean, he tried being a hero, but it was in vain. He would basically say that, as one of them would say this, specifically, Kaminari, as Kaminari would say this. Don't talk about my friend about that, like, don't talk about my friend like that, as Izuku would say this. Friend? Huh, I didn't know you and the pervert actually, got along, as they would say this, specifically, not really Mineta, because, Mineta's dead, but wait for a second. Sero and Kaminari, they would say this. Well, we sort of became friends after a while. I mean, we sort of have a pretty, obvious thing in common. As Izuku would say this. Oh yeah, both of you are freaking perverts. As they would basically start to defend themselves, as Izuku would say this. Anyway, he would basically sigh to himself, as he would say this. Anyway, maybe we should, check out his grave or something. As one of them would say this. Yeah, we should. Maybe tomorrow, said, Jiro, as it would be surprising to Izuku because he already knows that, one of the reasons why, Jiro prefers to stay quiet. It's because of it's because of Mineta. Because Mineta was always perving at her sometimes. With alongside, Momo. As she would say this. Yeah, we should maybe go to, his grave and maybe send a bit of flowers or something. As Izuku would say this. Well, that's surprising. I mean, I thought you actually hated him. I mean, you basically said that you basically hated him through the bottom of your heart or something of that sort. As she would say this. Yeah, but ever since he died, well, I sort of forgave him. As he would say this. Weird. As Izuku would say this. Well, anyway, I should be getting some sleep. After all, we should be training soon. As one of them would say this. Why? Said, what's his face? Said Kirishima. As Izuku would say this. Well, have you heard of the UA Sports Festival? As everybody would lit up, as one of them would say this. Wait, you know about the sports festival? How? I mean, I know it's like every year, but I didn't know that it was, as Izuku would say this. Well, I heard about it from, Aizawa, and also some of the faculty. They don't even know how to, shut their mouths sometimes. Anyway, I'm gonna be training tomorrow, so I'm gonna be sleeping early. See ya, guys. As one of them would say this. So, are you not gonna have, dinner? As he would say this. Don't worry, I'm already full. So, after he left, he would basically go into his, side of the bed, as Momo would basically arrive, wearing her nightgown. After Izuku looked up, he would start to blush a little bit. Because of her, gown's almost, how do I say this? Lewd nature, I guess you could say. As, well, Momo would say this. What are you looking at me for? As Izuku would say this. Oh, it's nothing. He would basically start to look away, as Momo would say this. Don't worry. You can look at me. As Izuku would say this. Look at you. As she would basically go onto the bed, as she would basically hug him. As she would say this. I forgot to tell you this. Thank you for saving me from that sludge villain. As Izuku would say this. Yeah. You're welcome. I was just trying to be a hero, okay? I mean, I was a villain back in my, back in England, so, as she would say this. I guess so. She would basically laugh a little bit, as she would basically come closer to him. As she would basically give off she would basically kiss him on the lips. And it's a little bit more intense. To the point that they started, using tongue. And after a minute, they would stop as Izuku would basically catch his breath. As he would say this. Damn, you're a good kisser. As she would say this. Well, I guess you could say my mother's genes, I guess. She would basically, pull back her hair a little bit. As she would say this. Anyway, should we go to sleep now? As Izuku would say this. Yeah, we should. So, they would basically go onto their, side of the beds, as they would basically go to sleep. So, this is going to be the end of this episode. So, yeah. So, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!